Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the FrSky channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this gorgeous radio is the brand new FrSky Tandem X20 HD. HD? Yeah, it comes with an HDzero, so an HD FPV receiver, hence the two antenna at the top, and it'll display that in this screen over here. Ordinarily with the X20 you'd use this screen for the user interface, right? Counters, model setup, radio setup, but with this HD version you can actually display your FPV feed in your radio. And to be completely honest, I haven't tested it yet, but we will test that together. And in this video I'll give you an overview of this radio. It's brand new to me, so let's discover this FrSky radio together, and at the end of the video again we'll test that HD feed as well. Here we go.
You serious?
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you get your FrSky Tandem X20 HD radio in a cardboard box, just like most FrSky radios these days. And you got a couple of options. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read that, but you can pick between the X20 HD or the upkit version. Now, previously that would be called the S version, so the X20S. And maybe in the future they will get back to that, I'm not sure. At this time you can pick between the normal and the upkit version, and the upkit version's difference is that you get fully aluminium gimbals, which is what I have here. Then you can pick between blue and black, and you can pick between FCC and LBT. And the difference between the FCC and the LBT version is the antennas. I'm not completely sure actually on the non-HD version. Antennas and the firmware, obviously, right? The firmware on the transmitter unit would be FCC or LBT. Yeah, and again, antenna, I'm not sure. With the non-HD version there was a difference in antennas. With this one maybe I'll get back to that in a later video in my review. Okay, so then you open up the cardboard box and things should look quite the same as with the non-HD version. I actually have the non-HD version and I'll show you them side by side in a minute. There shouldn't be a whole lot of difference, but we'll see. So, up close and personal, don't be shy. Over on your right you'll see the HD version, and this is my older non-HD. And let's compare the two. The pouches are identical. This one's a little more dusted. Yeah, okay. It's an older radio, right? So, but other than that, you've got a pouch with a handle and a zipper. Okay. Then, okay, a foam piece. And I don't have the foam piece with this radio anymore, but it did come with a foam piece. And okay, so even the insert, this is the same from the looks of it. Yeah, okay, so this new radio is still wrapped in its plastic. Let's get it out. Okay, and obviously the non-HD version also came with gimbal protectors, plastic gimbal protectors. And yeah, okay, so the HD version can also be had with this blue, indigo blue outer casing and a black outer casing. And yes, the non-HD version also came with these grip extenders, which you can obviously take off. Okay, on my non-HD version I've got these switch sleeves, and those aren't standard. Right, other than that, oh yeah, my radio says X20, but this is an S version. I've upgraded mine with the aluminium gimbals, and they are the, oh, that's different. They are the same on this HD version. But okay, so that's interesting. There is a difference in ratcheting. Now that can obviously be altered, right? But it's interesting to see that it's so different. Can you hear that? Minute ratcheting. You can't probably hear it. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's different. So other than that, these radios look very, very much alike, right? Yeah, let's actually switch them on. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the screens outdoors well enough.
Ethos. Switch warning. Welcome to Ethos.
Okie dokie. Can you actually see the screens? I can see what's on the screens, but I'm not sure if the GoPro picks that up. But yeah, the screens look very much alike. I don't think the resolution is any different. And other than that, there's no extra buttons. So the HD version has an HDzero receiver, right? And the screen can actually show that HDzero footage, the video. But yeah, I don't think there's difference otherwise visually. There is a difference in antennas, which I'll show you in a sec. But other than that, I think that there could have been extra buttons on the HD version for the HDzero functionality, but they didn't want to clutter up the design. Also, I guess it's a cost-saving measure, right? Otherwise they'd have to make new molds. But the main reason for not having too much difference is that they didn't want to make this radio look stupid. Cluttered, less minimalistic, if you will. Well, minimalistic, yeah. Even less minimalistic. Okay, looking from the back of these two radios, they still look very similar. You see these antenna mounts, if you will, right? Antenna mount, antenna mount. Over here there's an antenna mount, and over there there's an antenna mount. However, they serve different purposes. On the old or the non-HD version, these are backup. Well, secondary antenna. So the one is a secondary 2.4 gigahertz antenna. The other one is a secondary 900 megahertz antenna. On this one, you don't have secondary control antenna. You've got two HDzero antenna. So I'll get back to that in a couple of minutes when I discuss the future of these two radios. Whether the non-HD version will be obsolete, or they will stop producing that, or whether there's room for both, or neither. Okay, more on that in a couple of minutes. Okay, other than that, you've got a couple of ports over here. Hard to get to somehow. Yeah, okay, so you've got a trainer port. You got an audio port, you get a module port with which you can, for instance, program your receivers, flash your receivers, and you got a USB-C port for charging and firmware updates and transferring files and such. And oh, and you got the SD card slot over here. Both radios come with an SD card. Then on the HD version, is there any difference? It does look different. Yeah, there is a minute difference. Okay, so both of them have a training port. Both of them have an audio port. Both of them have a module port or a servo connector. Both of them have an SD card slot, but it's in a different position. And both of them have a USB-C slot. Yeah, so this one, the old non-HD version, has some slots that aren't in use. One of them looks like a micro HDMI out, probably, and one barrel connector that's not in use. And this one only has one connector port place that's not in use, and that also looks like a micro HDMI, but it's not used. In fact, the radio does have HDMI out, and it's on the side of the monitor over here. It's micro HDMI, in case you want to know. Okay, so switchgear. Switchgear. Both radios have a 2-position switch over here, 2-position switch, then 3-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position switch, and a momentary switch. completely identical. Then both of them have two knobs over here. They have sliders which feel the same, and I was always happy with these sliders. They work very well. Then you've got this 3 position switch, more or less, or 3 option switch, and then this slider over here, slider. Then at the back of both of these radios we've got 2 extra momentary switches. Switch, 2 momentary switches. You've got a micro module bay over here, and you've got the battery hatch thing over here. And yeah, the radios in both instances, they came with a battery. Yeah, what kind of battery is that? That is a 4000 milliampere 2S LiPo. Yeah, and they are hard to get out of the radio, so on my old radio I've got some tape, yeah, to jank it out. You don't really need to take it out often, as you can charge the radio from that USB-C port at the top over here. So that's very convenient. Now the radio also comes with a lanyard or neck strap, a pretty wide neck strap, but they are always a little bit hard. Yeah, on my non-HD version I never used it. It also came with the same neck strap, and yeah, generally actually I fly my airplanes without a neck strap, but maybe that'll change. And with this HD version you get obviously video antenna, 5.8 gigahertz antenna, right? And directional, as you can tell. Right, let me actually get it out of the plastic. We get 2 of those. They look pretty nice actually. Yeah, so 2 of those, and you get some extensions. Yeah, and that's interesting because the first publications of this radio, the first photos came, it had shorter or no extensions on them. So I guess, my guess is that FrSky tested things, and the antenna needed to be further from the monitor. Also interesting, the HDzero receivers all have 4 antenna, and this radio will have 2. So my guess is that FrSky's thinking was that well, this radio will be primarily used for airplanes, which is a fair guess, I think. And with FPV airplanes you'd fly in front of yourself most times. Therefore directional antennas, and they thought 2 were enough. And we'll see in a future video. I haven't tested it yet. This is the first time I'm powering up the radio. In a couple of minutes we will see if there is a live video, if I can get that HDzero to work. That'd be nice. Yeah. So yeah, okay. And this is the last. Oh, what is this? Switch caps, just like I have on my non-HD version. Switch. I thought that was optional, but you actually get those with the radio. That is definitely nice. So what more can I tell you about this radio? Are there any other connectors? No, like I mentioned, if you are unfamiliar with these radios, you can take off these side grips, and with that the radio gets a little bit lower, less high. Less high, yeah, right. Okay, so for some people that might not work if you have big hands. This distance, or rather this distance from the bottom to the center of the gimbal, might be too short. You'd be grabbing into nothing if you have long fingers. So for those people you get these extra, well, radio extenders, if you will. Grip extenders. The radio also gets a little bit thicker, but not that much because of those grip extenders. And as you can tell, I actually do have pretty long hands, but I prefer the radio without the grip extenders. Personal thing, obviously, and you get them with the radio. And I actually notice another difference between these two radios, and that's the tackiness of this rubber at the back of the radio. Now, that might be age, but I can't remember the old non-HD version being this tacky or non-slip, this sticky. It feels reassuring, I must say. Also, one other difference is obviously that my non-HD, well, basically the blue version, if you get the blue version of the non-HD or the HD version, you get these aluminium, probably, gimbal bezels. And I must say that looks very nice. I would have liked to see that on this black version. I obviously went with the black version to see whether I like it better or worse. Black is my favorite color, but this blue version looks a little bit, I'm not sure what to call it, more expensive somehow. This one looks a little bit more plasticky, even though both of these radios feel very high class, right? Actually, if you hold these radios, they feel like more expensive radios than they actually are. Especially the non-HD version is a bargain in my humble opinion, of course, but it's not super duper cheap. Definitely not, but for what you get, this is a great radio. I love it. I've flown with this radio for over a year now, I think. Faultless. I love them. I love the gimbals. These are the S gimbals, but yeah. And on the HD version, I will definitely have to dial down the ratcheting. But other than that, the gimbals are the same. And I'm sure I'll love this HD version of the X20. So guys, in a minute we'll test if this HD version can actually receive HD video, HDzero video. But I first want to give you a little bit of opinion about these two radios here. And this is simply my opinion, nothing else. It's not based on using this HD radio, obviously, because I haven't. It is a little bit based on using this non-HD version, as I've flown maybe 100 flights with this radio. I'm not even sure. Quite a lot of flights with this radio, so I know this radio. And so HDzero, had you heard of HDzero? In the airplane world, that might be a relatively new thing. In the drone market, HDzero is by now well known. And previously, HDzero was a venture of Fatshark, and Fatshark is a goggle manufacturer. Yeah, but Fatshark has abandoned that project, and now HDzero is carried by the chip manufacturer. So the chips that are needed for that digital setup, the digital FPV setup, they are now pushing the HDzero bandwagon, if you will. Right. So also, this is the very first radio with a HDzero receiver and screen. Other than FrSky, there are no other manufacturers that are into HDzero. So HDzero makes a receiver that can be used on any goggle, basically. And they make like four VTXs, video transmitters. And Runcam makes cameras for HDzero. Yeah, I don't think HDzero themselves make cameras for HDzero. So FrSky is taking a bit of a chance here with this radio, because it's not set in stone that HDzero will be successful. It's pretty new, and they are still, for instance, developing their own goggle. And acceptance, is there a critical mass in the market for HDzero? Debatable. There is a very, very strong support, however, for HDzero. Yeah, HDzero is open source. Well, it will be open source. Even the hardware, not only the software, but even the hardware will be open source, minus those chips. Again, HDzero or DifiMart really is in the market of chips. So that's their main market, their main business. So they make other systems, goggles, receivers, transmitters, to create critical mass for that system. I hope, personally, that HDzero will be very successful. Because it's an open system, and they've shown that their main intent, well, their main intent is probably to make money, but one of their strong intents is to give us, the users, what we want, what we need. And that's applaudable, I think. They are very open in that. So I personally do hope that HDzero will be successful. However, again, FrSky is taking a chance, and I guess FrSky is also helping HDzero to create that critical mass. More people will see HDzero. Huh? An FrSky radio with what? Oh, HDzero. Yeah. So, but they help that bandwagon in that way. So hopefully, and in a year we'll know more, right? So other than that, HDzero, I'm pretty new to HDzero. I have one setup, which I am going to be using in an airplane. But yeah, and I will do videos on my experiences with that, so with this radio and that airplane. But I can't say as of yet if I like it, if it works well, if it whatever. Right? We'll find out together, I guess. Okay, and last thing I want to share is my view on these two radios. So the X20 and the X20S and the HD versions will both be available in, say, half a year, or will they be separate entities, or will the HD version simply replace the non-HD? Well, here's the thing. The non-HD version has that setup with the secondary antenna. So the range with this radio could be better, right? Otherwise, why the hell would you want to use external antenna? You can put better antenna on this radio, right, than the ones that are internal. Whereas the HD version does not offer that option, right? They have these two antenna spots, same ones, but in the HD version they are meant for HDzero, and you can't, well, maybe I should do a video in which I open this radio up to see what the options are, whether you could add external control antenna to the HD version. That would be interesting. Yeah, I should do a video on the internals of this radio, so coming up, I guess. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on these two radios. Again, I think this will be two separate entities. And obviously the HD version costs more, right? That in itself warrants a non-HD version. But still, this is enough of a different radio for it to exist besides the HD version, in my humble opinion. Okay, we'll get indoors so we can be sure you can see the screen. And yeah, we'll see if that HD stuff actually works. Here we go. Alright guys, let's get the show on the road. In case you were worried, by the way, with me turning on the radio without the antenna on.
Welcome to Ethos.
Thank you very much. These are receivers, right? It's an HDzero receiver. It is a one-way system, and that might not be apparent to everybody because the DJI FPV system is a two-way system. But again, the HDzero system only receives. The receiver only receives. Okay, so let's get a video feed in the air. And okay, so yeah, the camera says HDzero. Oh, and the other side says run cam. Hopefully you can see that. So that's a run cam camera. Let's take the cap off. And hopefully I can get this working quickly. Because, yeah, I don't want to burn up my VTX. Let's protect the table a little bit. Okay, let's boot it up. I'm powering it with a simple 3S LiPo, a cheeky day, and it should be on. I got a red and a blue LED. So now we've got some buttons over here on our radio, and I'll press the MDL. No, the DISP. Oh, what? I already have feed. Is this live? Yeah. Okie dokie. Yeah, I will say that was a little more easily done than I was expecting. But okay, so ordinarily with the sys key over here you can cycle through frequencies. Can I? Yeah, okay, this is a different frequency. There's nothing there apparently. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Basically, you cycle through all the available frequencies for HDzero. There are 8, I think. Yeah, and okay, yeah, obviously this isn't a range check. And it's pretty dark indoors as well, but... Oh, lag? One of the selling points of HDzero, in case you didn't know, is the very, very low lag. Yeah, there's definitely low lag. Okay. Okay, so that works. Yeah, I had hoped for a little more drama than this, but obviously I'm happy that it simply works. So the next thing I'll do is set this up in an airplane, and then we can do some test flying with it. Very, very nice. So that's it. That was my first look at this FrSky Tandem X20 HD. Now, if you are left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. I can, well, include the answers maybe in my final review of the radio or in other videos on this radio. For now, I hope this was helpful. And if it wasn't, I'd like to know as well, obviously. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.